Hi there. How you doing? Hope everyone listening to this is having a lovely day or evening or whatever it might be when you're listening. Welcome in to the Ramblings from the Vault. I know what you're thinking. Great, another podcast. And yeah, honestly, part of me it, that has been brought to my attention a couple times within the pre-production thinking of this thing. As I told some friends about it, a couple of them were like, there's already a few of those. And I didn't take that too harshly. Because I didn't do this based on what other people thought. Or, I mean, not what other people thought, what other people have done. I'm aware there is a lot of podcasts now that I think more about it. But this is going to be a little bit different. These aren't going to have set topics or a script or anything of that nature. These are unplanned. Uh, I know it does feel like everyone and their dog has a podcast these days, especially some people within the OCRP community, even. Uh, in a way, though, I think podcasts are also the future. You know, Spotify even have expanded their horizons from just music to podcasts. Sure, a bunch of other platforms. There's Audible and all that stuff, and people are listening to podcasts more than ever. You know, some people grew up, they listened to radio shows on the radio in the morning or whatnot, and you have those familiar voices that you listen to on your way to work in between songs and stuff like that. It's kind of similar, except it's a little less music in this case. It's more so someone talking for however long or rambling in this case. But rambling from the vault is exactly what it sounds like. Of course, the vault part is based off of my community. Uh, when I started this channel, let me get into this first. Hi, I'm Ryan. I guess I'll start there. Uh, I am the creator behind a YouTube channel called A Man Named Ryan. I started that early-ish of last year, I believe it is. Started out on Twitch and then moved over to YouTube. Mainly started out doing some streams in a community called Orange County Roleplay, OCRP, as many of you watching this probably know. It is a FiveM community within Grand Theft Auto 5, owned by a bunch of lovely people. And I eventually expand my horizons out beyond that, and have had the great pleasure of the channel growing exponentially over time, especially within the last few months. It's, eventually reached 1,000 subscribers, which is a great milestone in itself. And then this recently, after listening to some feedback and just thinking more about it, it'd been kind of a casual thought before, but I finally was like, you know what, let's do a podcast. I kind of want to try a podcast, just general talking and something different, I guess, from other podcasts, but kind of have set topics. I think some of them, they kind of think about what they want to talk about beforehand. I go into it with a very bare minimum idea, I guess, of what to talk about and things of that nature. In fact, I did have some notes prepared for this to kind of, I guess, acquaint myself with this whole environment of knowing what to say, etc., etc. But I'm not even looking at those right now. I mean, sometimes I glance over at them, but I'm not really looking at them. But yeah, so the goal of this is kind of just to uh it's about creating a dedicated space for the kinds of conversations that, they just happen. You're talking to a friend or you're talking to a family member or loved one, whatever, you kind of sometimes you start drifting, talking about some random thing like, remember when milk used to look like this? And you had the missing persons on. I don't know what comes to mind. I guess uh, unplanned things. The conversation that just go off the rails and it's in the best possible way. I guess. Uh, so this is exactly what it sounds like. It's an unscripted, unfiltered conversation hub. It's like for those who have watched my streams, there's times where I'd start just going on random tangents or rambling, especially if I'm playing American Truck Simulator, which is a good game to kind of just talk to you guys, the watchers, while I play a game and just chill, listen to music, vibe. Uh, it's kind of like that, where we kind of just end up talking about life or weird news or just random thoughts. That's kind of the vibe we're going for here. We're trying to dive into whatever comes to mind with absolutely no pressure to be profound or stick to a script. Just genuine discussion and hopefully some good laughs along the way. For just this episode, and I don't know, maybe in the future, be some specials where just me talking, catch up with you guys, stuff like that. It just being behind the mic this time. And of course, it's only fair, like I said, that I'd introduce myself, because some of you watching this might not know much about me or know who I am. I'm sure a good fair amount of you know who I am in some way, whether it's through someone else or you've watched my channel for a little bit. You know my base. Some people know my basics. The OCRP stuff, the other games I've played. I'm sure there'll be some friends that know a little more about me. They're listening to this. And there's a good bit more to my story and perspectives than just what I stream. So this show can be kind of a way to, I guess, to connect with each other on a bit of a deeper and more personal level. I can kind of just talk about whatever, I guess. I guess I'll try to see what comes to mind as far as just sharing some of my story and letting you get to know me a little bit as we get into the podcast itself. Because in the future, the goal is to have a variety of people brought on board. And we just kind of talk about whatever and have some conversations and just you kind of maybe get to know some of my friends or some people I've had a great pleasure of working with, playing with. And also the reason why he's recorded that stream, I know there's a couple people I've seen that do podcast episodes but are live. So that way, in case I end up messing up and saying something that I shouldn't have live, I can cut that out, I guess. I don't want to accidentally divulge personal information from someone because it comes to mind or that or embarrass anyone, something like that. And I guess I'll just, I guess I get in some kind of my journey and talk about myself a little bit. I'm not good at talking about myself. I don't like talking about myself a whole lot because I try to be a very modest, selfless person, which in itself I guess sounds a little selfish, but I like listening to other people's stories, listening to about their lives, and I occasionally, I'm not used to talking about myself, I guess, but I can give it a shot. And I will say, I think my stage fright has really gotten better over time. It's just a matter of my mind thinking of what to say in the same. So if you hear these like long pauses or whatever, I'm thinking. It's not. I'm trying to get better. But of course, this is my first time doing a podcast episode, and it is almost 9 o'clock in the morning, and I wanted something to waste some time. So I was like, I guess I'll go ahead and do what I was procrastinating about and make this first episode. So it's it's very incredible, I guess, how I got to this point. Like I started out, I'd never even thought about streaming. For years or whatever, I've seen all these people stream and I look at it and I was like, this looks like a lot. This looks like something that I would be very scared to do. I'd do horrible at it. Nobody would want to watch me. I'm boring. I sound like someone that can make you fall asleep or someone that you listen to on NPR. But apparently people disagree with me and a few people encouraged me to go forward to streaming first of all. So that's why I decided to say, F it and go for that. And now, a year later, here I am making a podcast episode, which I think is bizarre in itself. Um, but enough with the basic stuff. I guess I'll just kind of go into myself a little bit, talk about me. So yeah, I'm Ryan. I am 21 years of age, which I know would come to a shock to many people. Is a shock to everyone I ever talk to. They think I'm in my mid 20s or 30s, and then I say, "Oh yeah, I'm 20 or I'm 19." Back whenever, depending on when I say it to people, they're like, "What?" Yeah, a double take at it. I get that a lot, especially if even with people who've seen what I look like, I don't look my age either. I feel like I look a little older, a little more mature looking, I guess. The profile picture you see is loose, very loose interpretation of what I look like. I don't look nearly as good as the cartoon photo there. The hairstyle is somewhat similar. I do wear glasses and I do have a beard that I like to keep trimmed. Other than that, though, it's a very caricature-like photo of me, but I think it suits me. Of course, some people know they originally had more of like a Vault Boy Fallout type thing to it. But recently, boy, I can't imagine what would make me want to do this tropical or whatever, like Vice Miami type thing. What would make you want to do that? Yeah, it's kind of loosely based on GTA 6 hype, but I kind of just like that 80s retro vibe anyways. I kind of want to go for something that's a little different, which I guess this is still kind of inspired by something, but I based everything on Fallout because I love Fallout. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Um, Favorite franchises and all that, and I hope they make another one. And maybe I'll try to get back into playing it some more on the channel and all that. But I was like, that'd be cool. Like Ryan's Vault, I can be the overseer and then have its little theme, and I have like the retro graphics and stuff like that. Eventually, I just kind of want to make it look a little cleaner and more modern. So that's why I went with this. That's part of why I went with all this. Um, but yeah, I started this channel, and before that, I've been in OCRP for a couple of years. For example, I played games a lot longer than that. Ever since my beginner days on the Xbox 360, yeah, that's that. Well, no, PlayStation 2. I originally was on the PlayStation 2. I know there's a lot of people watch this that probably be like, "Oh, I was on the Game Boy, I was on the Advanced, or I was on the Atari." I don't know, original Xbox and original PlayStation, and I think that's great. Uh, Unfortunately, I'm young as crap and didn't fully get into all that stuff. I never played a Game Boy. I never played much Nintendo. What is it, like the original Nintendos? I forget what they're called. I'm not in culture, but it just slipped my mind at this point. But yeah, original was on the PlayStation 2. I played games for most of my life, really. But I like mostly chill games. I used to get into more competitive stuff, like all the Call of Duty stuff and all that. But I've started to kind of, I guess, move away from that, and also it's frustrated me too much. So I tried to, I guess, calm down a little bit about that because I didn't want to get so uptight about video games. Um, so I've liked video games. I'm a big history buff. I've always liked history. I used to, when I was a kid, my family liked to remind me of this a lot. How I used to be able to recite all the presidents by heart. Up to that, back then, it was, there was a couple more added on after that ability. But I used to be able to do that, but for the life of me, I still get hung up on a couple now. Can't really do it as much as I used to, and I don't want to do it here, because you don't want to listen to me reciting the presidents. um, yeah, I always loved history, mainly American history, European history, and some others I want to kind of learn more about, I guess, in the future. But um, I used to be a big political junkie as well. Of course, I'm not gonna get into politics. That's one of the only things that you probably will not hear in this podcast, which I'm sure that would be a relief to some people. Politics and real world events to some extent probably won't be into too much because that can cause a lot of polarization. I don't want you to stop watching me because I support XYZ or whatever. I mean, I support the basic human rights stuff and all that, but I'm not gonna. I don't have an agenda here with all that. But uh, yeah, a big history guy. Um, been a nerd for. I'm a big history and English guy, I guess. Social studies and English. Never been big on math and science. I think they're lovely, but they were never my forte, I suppose. Um, I've had a few friends that are the opposite. They aren't as good with history and English, but they love math and science, and that's perfectly fine. It's just not my mojo. I've always loved technology stuff too. My, my first computer, which it might sound weird because considering I'm not that old, but my first computer I had was probably from like the 90s. It was pretty old with like the old clicky clacky keyboard and full white layout and all that. Eventually I got like one of those Dell desktops that they used to have in like offices and schools and stuff like that. For a good bit, and then fair share of laptops and up to like the mid 2000s, I had desktop computers that were handed down to me with Windows Vista stickers on them, for God's sakes. And then I got my first gaming computer, not until 2018, which that was super cool. But it was a very minimal. I mean, it was basic. It's basic compared to what they have now. And of course, I've been very blessed to have the gaming computer I have now, which is it's maybe not like what some people have, their little NASA computers, but I love it, and I think it's if the younger me could see me now, he would be very impressed. But yeah, big on technology stuff. I love all the latest advancements and like all the stuff in like AI and smart technology like that, computers and video games and development stuff like that. It blows my mind to think how much this world has advanced in the past 10 or 20 years alone. You think about how much. I mean, there was a fair share of advancements in the 20th century too and all that, but you just think about the past 10, 20 years, and this century so far has been a technological revolution. The past 40 years have been too, like, ever since the first the first Mac, whatever, Microsoft computers, stuff like that. When that started becoming like a big thing, then eventually the internet and cell phones and now smartphones, and you think also back to like computers that used to have maybe like 200 megabytes of storage. Now you get like terabytes or more, and that's like nothing. 20 megabytes, that's like a photo. That's like a high quality photo. So think about it. One photo could take up your whole computer space. It's crazy. Um, some other things, I guess, are like reading and writing. I've always been a big reader, although I haven't done as much of it lately. I used to read a whole lot, especially when I was in school. Then high school came around and I got super busy and I wasn't able to have enough time for reading, but I have a little more free time these days, so I might try to get back into it again. Writing, of course, like I said, I used I used to be a lot more creative than I am now, but I used to enjoy like writing stories and stuff like that, mostly like historical fiction and stuff like that. And sometimes I'd still dabble in it a little bit, but AI really does help with the idea flow. I will say that much. Do you think if we had AI like 5 years ago, even it's insane. Um, and I love listening to music and all the other basic stuff like that. I kind of listen to a little bit of everything, I guess. Like earlier, I was listening to some pop, but I could be listening to like 80s rock. Could be listening to those love ballads of the 80s one day, and then one day I could be listening to Johnny Cash, and the next day I'm listening to freaking One Republic, which I guess that's kind of like a more dated name now. They have all these. Well, they still make newer songs, but I guess you think about some of their famous songs. That's like the 2010s, which the 2010s. That's crazy. I still remember when. I remember the days before the 2020s. But then again, the last years of the 2010s were COVID, so not as fun. But I digress. Uh, but it's a few of my interests, I guess. There's a lot more stuff to it. Of course, there's a few things that I've gained a fondness for because of experiences over the years. Like, for example, the main thing is trucking. The reason why I got into trucking so much and so excited to be able to play American Truck Simulator and all that when that stuff came around was my dad was a trucker for most of his life, and that's a main story I've told people before. I've said it on stream too. Um, my dad was a trucker for most of his life for a company, various companies, mostly like did a lot of stuff for like bread companies and stuff like that, like transporting that and some other logistic companies. Um, anything from local trips to next state over to up the East Coast. Um, I come from area around Charlotte, North Carolina, so as you can see in the background, it kind of looks like Charlotte there. He would go anywhere from there to a little bit of eastern Tennessee. Sometimes he used to, years ago, he went to New York and stuff like that. And unfortunately, I didn't get to hear a lot of stories about that, but it really, I guess, I've had some memories, I guess, of being in his truck and stuff like that, and it made me want to get into it myself a little bit. And it's so cool that we have all these games for that kind of niche now. Like the fact that we have these realistic, I mean, as much as realistic as you can make it, but it's pretty darn cool. American Truck Simulator, Euro Truck Simulator, those are just insane with the level of detail that's gone into those, like with the trucks and the environment, stuff like that, things you can do. It and then with the wheels too, steering wheels and the eye tracking stuff and all this other software you can do, the mounts, the rigs and the chairs and everything like that. It's pretty cool. But yeah, that's a big thing that I got into and enjoy doing in my free time. I like sometimes just getting the wheel out now and just driving around, doing some runs and all that when I'm not streaming. Just want something to do. The only thing about it though is make you really tired. I've gotten very tired from it, to say the least. I think I've almost fallen asleep a few times streaming it, especially with when I'm with some when I'm with people. At times I'm like, I might need to get off a little early, or like one time had I went AFK for a bit while streaming, so I could go run to Dunkin' Donuts get me a coffee. Like it is, it didn't help my sleep schedule was already a mess as is, but yeah, it can really be. It's such a relaxing game that you can just fall asleep to it. And it's not. It's quite something to say the least. Um, yeah, trucking's a big thing, I guess, and oh, what else could we go into? Let's see. Well, role playing, I guess, is something I can get into. How I got into that and why I was interested in stuff like OCRP and all that. Like many people, they probably have seen a video of Bay Area Bugs or Jeff Fabiano or whatever. Blah 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 blah. Um, I'm one of those people. I started watching them in 2012. I'm not gonna. You can do the math. Wasn't exactly the most legitimate thing in the world. You can do the math though. When I started watching them, um, it was that combined with some text-based roleplay stuff I've done when I was younger that got me interested in. Like, I might give it a shot. Um, Especially because I Grand Theft Auto is quite the platform for. It's a great platform for that kind of role play. I will say. I remember when I first played. I mean, I've played San Andreas, a little bit of 3, a little bit of Vice City. I might try picking those up and maybe playing a little more of them before GTA 6 comes out, like part of the hype and all that. But you know, GTA 4 was the main one that I played from start to almost finish. I think I got stuck on some glitch at the very end and wasn't able to finish the last mission or something like that. But maybe I'll try that again sometime. Um, yeah, I mostly played GTA 4 when I was a kid, and of course, when I stumbled upon those people, that was primarily what they were playing, I guess, at that time. So it was like, oh, that's cool. I like that game too. And I see them doing it with as like cops and all that. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's a cool domain for stuff like that, I guess. And of course, before that was before roleplay servers were properly a thing. I guess they had communities, but it was mainly with the police mods and stuff like that. Of course, nowadays they still have those, but primarily, the role playing has taken off, and it's cool that you can have all this stuff for civilian-based role play and scenario-based stuff and whatnot. They have framework servers and just standard like scenario-based role play that people come up with. People are very creative about stuff like that. I'm not that creative about it, but there's a lot of people that really are, and I think that's really cool. But years went by, and eventually GTA 5 came out, and it was neat to play that for the first time. I played that not too long after it came out. I don't know if it was right when it came out or what, but I remember being given the game and playing it for the first time. I was like, oh wow, this is very different, very cool. And you think how far we came since then, and you see all the trailers for GTA 6 and all that, and you're like, oh my gosh, imagine the first moments in GTA 6, which I'll be, I guess, streaming that. My point of view, that'd probably be a million of them, but I guess I'll give that a shot just so I can look back at it at the very least, and whoever wants to watch that, I guess. That's gonna be a historical moment right there, just like your first moment playing the other Grand Theft Auto games, or any other game in general, not just Grand Theft Auto, because I know there's some people watching this that there's some that probably don't even care much about Grand Theft Auto, like my best friend, for example, never been his thing. I think that's totally reasonable. I think the only reason I got into it so much is because of my childhood history with it, I guess, and exposure to it, which is so ironic, I guess, because, you got all these people who got exposed to the game as a kid or got so interested in it as a kid, which it's meant to be for people 17 or 18 or higher. This makes it so funny, I guess, but it's kind of hard to avoid those kind of things or prevent those kind of things, I guess, but that's just a part of life and culture, especially in America, I guess. Nevertheless, though, needless to say, I've had plenty of experience in Grand Theft Auto before I reached age, but what are you gonna do? There's so many people who do it, you can't really enforce it that much, I guess. I mean, obviously, you can have people, you can refuse to let people buy the game if they're under the age, of course. But I mean, a couple games I've had to have my parent pay for or buy or whatever. And I was like, I mean, but of course, the parents that's going to give you the bag right as soon as you leave or something like that, or like right as soon as you leave the cash register, they're going to give you the bag and like, okay, here you go. Or you give them money in some cases and stuff like that. I think that happened to me in one game. I can't remember which one it was, but I know my dad had to get it. And of course, I was gifted a surprise the day that Red Dead 2 came out. I think it was the same day. Yeah, it was the same day it came out. I was at his house, and suddenly, oh, here comes the game. And that was a huge surprise to me. I was very looking forward to that game, and that is one of the best games that has ever came out in Red Dead, which I know GTA 6 will probably surpass on some levels, but also the story of Red Dead is just amazing. I know that Grand Theft Auto will probably have a good story too, but it's not as I don't think the narrative or the aim of Grand Theft Auto is the same as Red Dead, narrative wise and story wise and all that. But nevertheless, and it's just the games that I got into, and I've also played the other Rockstar games, like LA Noire was one of my favorite games too. I love the setting of that game and the premise, and it's a very, very unique idea that came up with that, and the technology that went into that game too, like with the motion capture, was ahead of its time. Not even GTA games that came after that were really as good as LA Noire as far as technology and motion capture and all that, which you need to have good motion capture for a game like LA Noire, because part of LA Noire is that you have to read people's faces. In addition to what they're saying, you gotta read their faces and see, can you tell from that they're lying? And you can't have like Grand Theft Auto 5 or whatever the other technology was that wasn't Team Bondi, which made LA Noire. You can't. Their stuff was not as advanced, I guess, at that time. I'm sure it is now. I think Red Dead 2 was pretty advanced, but at that time, it was kind of a little bit behind that team that made LA Noire. Um, if you did it with that, I don't think you'd be able to read face. You'd have to rework the whole thing, I feel like. And even the motion capture and like cutscenes and all that is pretty cool. I love seeing the bloopers of LA Noire, because there's some where it's like one of your partners, that the motion capture actor, uh, sneezes, and it looks so funny with the motion capture because it's not meant. I don't think it's meant for it to handle that. So those kind of situations, like where you sneeze and stuff like that, unless they specifically, But regardless, it's kind of funny. But you can do so many things with your hands and stuff like that. The VR version of that game was incredible too. It's pretty funny to watch. But I always loved those kind of games. Grew up on them, got into them. The Mafia games are also a good example of games I got into young. Mafia 2. I never really played the original Mafia, not the remastered version or the remake, but the original Mafia. I played Mafia 2 though, and that was really cool. I don't know if I ever finished it, but I loved it regardless. Um, and I played Mafia 3 to the finish, which was a little different, but it was still a good game. Um, and now they have the newest one coming out later this year, which I would be sure to play as soon as it comes out. I think it's fall, like September or something like that. It's coming out. Mafia: The Old Country, which is set in Sicily, I think it is, in the early 1900s. Kind of, I guess, the origins of the mafia per se. Looks really cool. Be interested to see how the gameplay looks for it and stuff like that. There's been a lot of cool games that came out lately. Indiana Jones was a cool game, but I uh, I, I I didn't finish it after I got to a point where it was this giant snake and it scared the crap out of me. So I never got my Game Pass back to finish that game. Um, Maybe one day I'll try it again and see if I can try not to get a scaredy cat about it. Um, yeah, that was a good game though. A bunch of others that come to mind, I guess. The games have really advanced over the years though, but I guess back to what I was saying though. Roleplay. Yeah, that's what I was saying. See, that's the thing. I'm rambling and I get off course. That's perfect name, I guess. The reason why I did ramblings from the vault, not Ryan's ramblings or something like that, is because most of these episodes will not just be me talking, and I don't want it to seem like it's all about me. So, if people who are in the vault or part of the vault or associated with the vault in some way, um, they'll also be speaking. So it's kind of like it's mostly about hearing their voice, and then I will just be kind of also there having a conversation with them. Some great people that I have in mind that I'd like to have on here, including some that have already been planned. I haven't obviously recorded those yet, but they'll be coming. Um, and yeah, I'm gonna try to do these once a week. So yeah, definitely will happen, and we'll figure out the kinks and what the flow will be for that. Anyways, god dang it, roleplay. So I was watching those people, Jeff, Bugs, whatever, and I eventually got into the FiveM roleplay stuff with GTA 5 when that came out for PC. Very different back then, because it was this early modification stuff like that to the game. You look at those early episodes with the UI and the scripts and all that, and it's came a long way since then, to say the least. Eventually, I didn't watch it for a while I'd watched, excuse me, OCRP when they first started it, um, and um, I took a few years of a break from it, really, while I was doing stuff with high school and all that, and then around when I graduated, back in 2022, I got into it a little more and started watching it again. Eventually, I got introduced to a number of amazing people that started streaming it themselves. The first one being Brain Gap, who was a big reason why I'm streaming. He was a big inspiration from the beginning, I guess, to want to get into OCRP and the community itself and all that. When I started watching his stream from a raid, like, oh, this guy seems cool. He was doing this stuff called the Vice Boys, which, if you don't know anything about Braincraft, the Vice Boys is a series they used to do, which turned to a little edited video thing he did. But it used to be a bunch of streams where it was like based off of Miami Vice. Have you ever heard of that? It was a show in the 80s about these detectives with the Vice Squad, which do a bunch of stuff like drugs, and they handle like taking down drug lords and stuff like that. 80s, real 80s stuff. So it was based on that. It was like these guys that were kind of, I guess they were from Vice City or whatever, and they were all of a sudden, oh, they're here in San Andreas. I don't remember for sure if it was like kind of identity crisis thing, or like they thought they were in a different time and stuff like that, or they were really convinced they were cops. I know they were. I believe the characters were convinced they were cops, or thought they were cops. They had the sergeant they reported to and all that later on, and they had these drug lords that they chased down. I think Condor was involved in that. He was another person in OCRP. Um, really fun watching those, and it's like, yeah, I'll keep watching this guy. And I sat around his streams a bit and became a moderator for him. And then I started watching other people stream OCRP and got involved with other people with it. And I made a few friends along the way, to say the least. A few people, there's people like Bradley, RP Sims, that got into it, who I hope to have on the show later. He is convinced that he is this ultra boring person, and he can't be as boring as I am. But apparently, I'm over here doing a podcast, so I mean, it can't be that bad. Give it a shot. But yeah, and then I got involved in the fan community behind it a little more, and then eventually, when the applications came around later the next year, and spring of 23, I was like, you know what? Okay, I'll apply. So I applied, and it was around May of that year where I was checking my application, or maybe I was told, you know, I checked my application status and it said I was accepted, or like moving on to the interview stage, or whatever. Had my interview done. It was for 2-8 Kyle E that did my interview. 5R Kyle, a great guy. He also gave me some tips for my sound and audio, because my microphone was very meh at the time. He gave me some good tips about that, and I got with this like sound manager thing to kind of manage my sound and stuff a lot better, which I used all the way until I got Go XLR. And yeah, and then I did my interview, and it was a little nerve wracking. Of course, now I think they do it a little differently, but um, I did that, and then he was like, "Yeah, yeah, you're in." And I was like, "Goodness gracious, this is something else." I guess definitely a wave of emotions, because it's a. I think a lot of people when they got in, they felt the same way. Where it's like it's just a community that for a lot of people you've watched for all these years and been so excited about wanting to be in and all that. Or you got convinced by a friend to get in and like, oh, you're in. And it's like, oh, that's cool. And I was very fortunate again as soon as I did because, there's still people getting in today that, I applied around the same day. If not the same day, it was like a couple days where it was open. The people that I know that didn't get in till last year. Um, and I've been in over 2 years now. I think today is like a year and a month or something. I don't know if it's today, but around this time I'm recording this, it's like a year and a day. Or a year and a month, excuse me. Time really, 2 years, excuse God, 2 years and a month. Time really does fly, I guess. Uh, sorry, my brain is all scrambled, I guess. I'm trying to keep talking, all that, but, have things to talk about. Um, And of course, I've had a lot of great memories since I've joined on the civilian side and the law enforcement side. Even the coroner side, the coroner medical examiner, I've done that stuff with a bunch of great people. Um, Again, I'll probably get into that a little more in my experiences and all that with some of the people that I've done it with, as I bring them on the show and stuff like that later on, if I can convince them to talk about various like scenarios or characters I've done and all that. But I want this to be more than just this OCRP guy streaming. I'm not gonna just talk about that. I don't want to just talk about that because as cool as OCRP might have been for my bunch of like my gaming sense and like getting to everything and all that, it's very formative in a lot of friends I've made and all the experiences the past couple of years. It's not obviously not just who I am, and I've branched off a good bit since then, and there's a lot more to me. I'm not just some guy that is known for having an old man uh, as a cop, which is one of the main things I'm known for. The Silver Fox nickname he got. It's this old guy who's actually only 50, but long story there is how he looks so old, but he became a small town cop in OC, and he got to know by it. He got to be known by his walk, very slow walk, and just his look and all that. And his like Sam Elliott style mustache and all that. He's quite something. He's a good guy though, and a bunch of other characters, I guess, that some of which I'm known for, some of which not really. But role playing has been a nice domain for me, and I've expanded my horizons with that a little more since then, since OCRP and way before. It's a nice creative outlet, and it's a very creative thing in itself, the concept of it all, and especially in a platform like Grand Theft Auto, it's cool. And of course, there's plenty of other things you can think of when you think of role playing. You think of stuff like Dungeons and Dragons, D&D, or other board game stuff, or there's other like I guess text-based stuff and other video games that you can role play in. Skyrim, I believe is one of them. There's a bunch of like RPGs and stuff like that out there. I'm not really too well versed in all the RPG style games. The people that role play in those games. Of course, some of the RPGs, I guess I don't think they involve as much of the like what we know as role play. But of course, I guess you think about it. I guess with Grand Theft Auto role play, that kind of originated, I think, with San Andreas multiplayer. I think is what it was. SAMP back in that. I think it might still be around, but in GTA San Andreas, they had this platform they put together for PC called SAMP, SAMP. I did a little bit. I actually was in one server for a little bit of that, and it was quite something. It was I never really figured out what I was going to do with that, but it was pretty cool, and I was a lot younger then and didn't have as much experience, so I was very blown away when I saw that. And it's of course a lot different of an experience. It's a different game. It's a far older game, and but it's very timeless in itself. And I guess that's probably what one of the inspirations was to lead us to where we are now with the desire for Grand Theft Auto roleplay. Um, but of course, there's other stuff to me, and some of which I guess I'll think of later on when I'm talking to other people or bring up and all that. Um, you'll meet some cool people if you haven't already met them. I will say that much. We've been going for 45 minutes just about now. I can't believe I managed to talk for that long. I guess I can ramble. Um, I guess we'll start wrapping it up here though, because I don't want to make these too long, and hopefully you've enjoyed this though, and uh, like I said, I'm gonna try to do this weekly, and bring on a bunch of lovely people to kind of just chat and talk about how we know each other and talk about things about each other and stuff like that. And I'll try to also use it as a building block to for people to get to know me better as well, based on that. Um, if you have any feedback, suggestions, and all that, of course, I'm more than welcome to accept it. This is a very new thing to me, but I want to give it a try, and I hope that other people enjoy listening to it as much as I do. I enjoy listening to podcasts now and then, but I hope other people will maybe like listening to it too. But I'm trying not to make these too long, because I know some people have short attention spans, myself included. So, um, yeah, I think I'll wrap it up there for this one. But thank you all so much for listening, and we will catch you on the next one. I'll try to think of more things to talk about other than this was a lot more about role playing and all that, and how I got that stuff. But I mean, it's a big part of, I guess, how people know me and how people have gotten to me. So of course, I guess to be interested in that, but I think these other episodes will allow me to explore my other sides and parts of me, I guess, within appropriate reason. Um, but thank you again, and yeah, we will catch you on the next one. Bye for now.